Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the Dubai Autodrome. It is time to go racing with the Gulf Radical Cup, round 4 of this 2021-2022 campaign. It is just gone 11 o'clock Gulf Standard Time. The cars have been released from pit lane to line up in position, ready for the start. It's been a little bit delayed due to a red flag in the previous qualifying session. So we are going to have an absolutely fantastic race battle in front of us. You can see the safety car is there in the position on the starting line as we are getting ourselves ready for race action here at Dubai Autodrome. The first race of 3 this weekend. There are 2 sprint races today, followed by an endurance race tomorrow. And as usual in the Gulf Radical Cup, it's going to be very intense throughout. We'll have plenty of great battles and action. And there's plenty of suspense to come from our drivers, as they will usually and regularly give us plenty of wheel-to-wheel drama. The great thing about the Radical Cup is that you're always going to have the air of unpredictability. All sorts of things can and will happen, and so the drivers will have to prepare for that. So let's see if we are going to have an absolutely spectacular battle as usual. There is the Team Pakistan car, getting itself ready for the action in front of us, and we will have a very exciting battle from the competitors all the way through this weekend. But certainly for the sprint race here in Gulf Radicals, the cars are making their way on their reconnaissance laps around the course as they make their way through the pit lane to come back onto the circuit and do another exploratory lap of the course. But after qualifying, it was Alex Bunkatsov who managed to get pole position in front of the dominant George King. I say dominant because that's how it was when the last time we came to play at Yas Marina. But George King was not able to beat Alex Bunkatsov's time. And the battle between them was 19 thousandths of a second after time qualifying. Ian Loggy will line up in 3rd position on the grid for this one, along with James Sweetnam in P4. Johnny Kazoum will be in P5. And then Mohamed Al-Kazemi is 6th from Marcus Bamberg. Abdelnazir Al-Hamidi, and then Amir Fazulin, Jacobo Matza, Zaye Murad, who will be in the Team Pakistan car. And then it will be Damian Chosek, Ray Yu Wang, Ian Roberts, and we hope in 15th place, it'll be Julien Meunier, although we didn't actually see his car come out in qualifying. So there is the potential chance that we're only going to get 14 cars for this sprint race. But 14 very quality drivers it will be, as per usual. So the competitors are going to make their way around, and they will obviously make their way through the pit lane as they need to do a 2nd or 3rd exploratory lap. But the cars will make their way onto the start line. They will form up in position in their positions on the starting grid, and we will get ourselves ready for the first of 3 races this weekend. A very busy weekend here at the Dubai Autodrome with plenty of great race coverage to come. 3 races, of course, from the Radical Sports Cars. We'll also have the NGK UAE Pro Car Championship, and there'll also be action from the F4 UAE Championship. And I'll be taking later to the Mumbai Falcons YouTube page for coverage of the Formula Regional Asian Championship with my colleague Ridhimar Patak. So it's going to be fabulous to see how things go over the course of the race weekend. I'm Jake Sanson. Beside me is Chris Milbourne. The cars are making their way to the starting grid. And once again, here at the Dubai Autodrome, Radicals will give us a very radical race.
It certainly will, and I've got to say, Jake, it's quite warm outside. Of course, I am wearing full black, which is always a mistake here that I do.
Why would you do that? Why would you do that?
It's easier. That's just why. But
easier to melt, you mean?
Yes, exactly. So I can imagine for the drivers here this weekend, they're going to be feeling the heat because, of course, open top cockpits here. They're sitting right at the grid as well. There's direct sunlight on them. They've got to be absolutely boiling. They want to get this race over with as soon as possible. But fantastic season this year for the Gulf Radical Cup. They've had so much interest. I was speaking to Fred Jacobs last week, 2 weeks ago at Yas, and he said he had such a high demand and he didn't have enough cars, so he couldn't get enough people here. We do have slightly fewer cars than we did before, but it's great to see Ian Roberts return. We didn't see him race at Yas 2 weeks ago. The demand for the Gulf Radical Cup has really rapidly expanded here in the United Arab Emirates, which is great to see. And of course, this year actually they're going to do one overseas race. They're going to head over to Lusail in Qatar. Great to see them venture outside the United Arab Emirates as they did a couple of years ago. They've mainly kept it here at both the Dubai Autodrome and Yas Marina. Of course, 2 weeks' time we will see them back at 3 weeks' time actually we'll see them in the Yas Marina, because of course they'll race there I think for the final time actually this season in the United Arab Emirates there as well. It'll be at the end of February. Now I've just noticed that George King, now You did say that Alex Bukanstov was quickest, and he dominated it. Now, I've just noticed that George King, his second place is in the shade.
Yes, I have. I've noticed that his position is in the shade. Now, there was discussion. Fred Jacobs actually sent us a message to say that there is a chance that 14 and 15, which is George King and Amir Feyzulin, could start from the pit lane due to engine difficulties. So that might be the reason why George King wasn't quite able to be as fast as we expect to see him by comparison to Alex Bunkertsoff.
And it was quite unusual as well to see George King parked at the end of the session down towards the runoff area in turn 1.
Absolutely, so maybe that was the reason. Because obviously it was not usual to see a car come down the straight and then park at turn 1. So the very fact that there are engine issues there could be exactly the reason. And as you look at it on the starting grid, George King is not there on the starting grid on the front row of the grid. And I noticed that nor is Amir Feyzulin, the 15 car. So it is likely that both cars will start from the pit lane. Now, for those who are big fans of Radical Racing, as I am, after last time at Yas Marina, where George King literally won everything bar the raffle, and the only reason he didn't win the raffle is because they didn't hold one. So this is an opportunity for George King to really show what he can do to try and charge his way through the field.
And, of course, he's got a lot of quick drivers to get through as well here, and a lot of quick cars. Bukanstov, of course, was on the podium in the first round.
Breaking news. Sorry, mate. Breaking news, and it has been confirmed that George King will not start the first race. That is disastrous for George King, so he is not going to take his place on the second place of the grid.
I'm pretty sure if we look at the championship standings, I don't think he's going to take it to like...
He's not going to break a sweat,
No, he definitely isn't. He's, as you said, he's won pretty much everything. He won everything 2 weeks ago. He did very well in the opening rounds as well in the championship, so I think he's probably sitting back relaxing. Okay, these guys are getting faster, I'm going to learn, I'm going to look what they're doing here in race 1, and then I'm going to use that against them in race 2, and of course the Enduro.
Yeah, the reaction is going to be, oh drat, blast and bother, anybody got any green tea? That's pretty much going to be it, looking at the championship lead he has. But this is an opportunity, of course, for everybody else to basically bring out their best and try and take some points away from George King. Hopefully we are going to see him for Sprint 2, though. So they have got a little bit of time to work on that, which, of course, the team will be doing at this moment. So they've obviously got a little bit of time now. Yes, they'll miss Sprint 1, but they've got quite a bit of time until Sprint 2, so they can work at that and get the car ready. What this does mean, of course, now, is that we've got a bit of a battle on our hands between Bunkertsoff, Loggy and Sweetenham, with Kazum and Al-Kazemi, no doubt, going to be scratching at their heels, with Marcus Bamberg and Abdulnazir Al-Hamidi trying to pick up some scraps.
As the grid has been cleared, it's about time the safety car peels away and will be underway shortly for the formation lap here in the Golf Radical Cup. It's going to be a very exciting race, 25 minutes of racing action, because of course we have 2 25-minute races, and then we have one endurance race tomorrow, which will be 45 minutes. And of course a little bit of a slightly different format from what we had last season. We had 2 sprint races, no, we didn't have sprint races actually last year. We had endurance races, we had 2 of them. So we've kind of condensed the calendar, the races over the weekend. But we've also added a third race to make things much more exciting. Of course, endurance races always throw that extra curveball to the drivers here. But we're getting underway now for the formation lap, and a fantastic field here this weekend, as always, in the Golf Radical Cup. I'm trying to get my hands on the championship points, but the internet is not playing nice, as always. But it's Alex Bukanstov on the front row of the grid with an empty space to his left-hand side, and then behind him is Ian Loggy and James Sweetenham, who line up on row number 2. Johnny Kazum and Mohammed Al-Kazmi line up on row number 3, with Marcus Bamberg and Abdul Nasser Al-Hamidi sharing row number 4. Amir Feyzulin, who is not starting this race either, or he may be starting for the pit lane, because I think Fred Jacobs said that only the number 14 is confirmed not to start, so Amir will actually start from... it's Fred Jacobs has just updated us as well, of course, from Golf Radical, that Amir Feyzulin also will not start, but they will be starting Sprint Race 2, which is fantastic news. So that leaves an empty gap for Yukiko Maza to deal with there on his left side. The left side? No, he'll be the right side of him, actually, because it's 9th position, isn't he? Yes, it is. And then Zahir Murad in the number 23. A beautiful livery on that car as well. The green colour for that is absolutely stunning to look at. Of course, it is the Pakistani flag on that. Then we have Damien Kursik in the 777 with, he's alongside the number 23. Rayu Wang with Ian Roberts alongside for company. And Julien Monet should be at the back of the field, but we do not see the number 32 Jag either.
Yeah, we don't, unfortunately. He didn't come out for qualifying, so I assume technical problems there as well. So as confirmed by Fred Jacobs, who's our eye in the sky, unfortunately, George King and Emir Fazulin will not be starting Sprint Race 1. They will hopefully be back in time for Sprint Race 2, barring any other technical maladies. That means we'll have 12 cars for this first sprint race. 25 minutes. You may not think that 25 minutes of 12 radicals is going to be entertaining. Oh, how wrong are you? These guys are going to give us plenty of excitement and drama, as they always do. I remember it very well from last season when we had some great battles in the Golf Radical Cup, and it's great to be back with you in this race once again. If you're just joining us, you couldn't have picked a better time. We are about to go racing for Sprint Race 1 from the Golf Radical Cup. Jake Sanson and Chris Milbourne with you, and this is going to add an air of uncertainty to the fray. The championship leader, George King, with engine problems, along with his colleague Amir Fazulin, they are neither of them going to start the race, which means that Alex Bunkertsov, Ian Loggy and James Sweetnam have a chance to catch up a massive haul of points, as George King will not score, as he will not start this race. And with the championship battle for Ian Loggy, this is a great chance for him to try and get his race victory that he's been hungry for so long.
George King has 183 points to Ian Loggy's 79, so Ian Loggy's going to have to bag maximum points and take some more if he can. But we're about to get underway. Two lines working their way through the final corner here. It will be a rolling start here for Golf Radical Cup. Race number 1 of the weekend. It is up to Alex Bunkertsov to lead the field round, and he's got that empty gap where we should see George King, but unfortunately not start the race. For James Sweetnam, he's going to try the long way round and go straight round the outside.
So a rolling start rather than a standing start as we wait for the lights to go out on the start-finish line, and when they do, we'll be racing at the Dubai Autodrome. It's a very slow start, but away we go! Rise and up to the first corner. It's a terrible start for Alex Bunkertsov. He's desperately trying to keep Ian Loggy back, who has drawn alongside him already, and it looks to me as though James Sweetnam is going to cut through the middle and make the bid for the lead, but Ian Loggy is going to have the inside line. Bunkertsov's going to need to brake late here as they come through. Loggy is the leader, and Bunkertsov almost catches him in the rear quarter. There's a spinner in the middle of the field by the look of it as Bunkertsov tries his best to shake off Sweetnam. Sweetnam is on the inside line. He holds the middle of the road, and Sweetnam is through in a second place. Not a lot that Bunkertsov can do except run wide onto the runoff area. He's now going to try and come straight back at Sweetnam, but Ian Loggy is in the lead. That is a fairy tale opportunity for Ian Loggy to take a race victory.
Now, I wonder if that's a 777 that's gone round through turn 1, but very interesting start as well. It looks like they started backing up into one another, but we did get away cleanly at the starting line at least, but there is the car on the back. So actually there's 2 cars trailing at the moment, so there's 2 cars that haven't got the best getaway.
And you were absolutely right. One of them is indeed Damian Chosek. I couldn't quite make out who the second one was, but I'm sure we'll pick it up. But it is Loggy, Sweetnam, then Alex Bunkertsov, the pole man, and in 4th place it is Abdulnazir Al-Hamidi. So a great start from Al-Hamidi. He was 7th on the original grid. If you don't count George King, that would have been P6. Then Bamberg getting on the inside and making the move there on Johnny Kazoum. So good move there from Marcus Bamberg, and I think he was trying to thwart the intentions of Ian Roberts, who was making a good recovery drive from his position as he tries to make his way through. Who is that behind Marcus Bamberg now? That is the 47 car, I do believe, of Mohamed Al-Kazemi, who did not get the best of starts. And then behind him, we've got Jacopo Mazza and the Team Pakistan car, Zayat Murad. And then, of course, we'll have the likes of Ray Yu Wang, Ian Roberts, Damian Chosek, and the rest of it. Oh, that is Damian Chosek's car. So it has stopped moving, and that's why we're under safety car. Safety car conditions have been thrown. So safety car is now on the circuit, and it will catch the cars as they come through. Now, the race start is under investigation. The car that was tangled up with Damian Chosek was actually Abdulnazir Al-Hamidi, who was in 4th position, but he seems to have slowed right up. There is the safety car catching the field as they come round. Loggy and Sweetnam. The next car in the field should be Alex Bunkertsov, but he's down to 4th place now because Johnny Kazoum, I think it is, has come through into 3rd position ahead of Sweetnam and ahead of Bunkertsov and Al-Hamidi. So Bunkertsov has actually fallen another place just before the safety car was called. So Loggy is your leader, Sweetnam in 2nd, then Kazoum, Bunkertsov, Al-Hamidi, Bamberg and Al-Kazemi from Murad Matza and Wang. Not quite sure what's happened to Ian Roberts. He hasn't come through yet. He obviously ended up spinning to avoid Damian Chosek. And then Chosek is stationary there at turn 1. You can see they've slowed right down to avoid his car. And, well, that is rather unfortunate for Damian Chosek. His car stranded on the curb, can't move, and that's why we're under safety car conditions.
Yeah, so one lap, actually no, less than a lap, because the safety car came out before we actually completed the first lap of the race here. But it is Ian Logie who got the jump at the start and has managed to stay ahead of James Sweetenham. A fantastic start as well from James Sweetenham. Was going 3 wide down towards turn 1, but managed to keep the rest of the field at bay. Johnny Kazoom on a mission as well, now up into a podium finishing position, as Alex Bukanshab, unfortunately, from the back of the field, at the front of the field, actually, is dropping back. Abdul Nasser Al-Hamidi's moved up into 5th. Mohammed Al-Kazemi has moved down to 7th position. But Ian Roberts has at least gone up 1 place. He is still circulating. Ooh, is he, though? Because it's not shown that he's gone through sector 1. So has the number 7 got an issue as well? No, the number 7 there is in the back of the shot by the looks of it. So not sure what's going on. His transponder may be malfunctioning ever so slightly, as it's showing that Amir Faisalin is on track, even though we've got confirmation from Fred Jacobs that the number 15 will not be starting this race, but being shown as actually in the race. So that's quite interesting here, but we'll wait and see when they come through the shot and across the line for the second time to see which car that is trailing. Of course, we have seen the number 777 unfortunately out by the actually, it's on the first corner as well. Unfortunately, the car did not get going again here at the Dubai Autodrome. Still behind the safety car here. Gap in front is fighting over second, but of course, behind the safety car, no overtaking, and you have to stick to 60 kilometres an hour. Of course, during the safety car period, the tyres start to cool down, so they have to keep the heat of the tyres. That's why we see a lot of them swerving backwards and forwards. And of course, it's Johnny Kazoom there, who's currently circulating in 3rd position at the moment, as Ian Logie will have control of the field when we get going again this time round. Now it looks like the safety car lights are off, so we're going racing this time round as Ian Logie works his way through the penultimate corner, gets the jump, but I don't think he got a good enough jump there, Jake.
Well, certainly not to drop Sweetenham. Sweetenham's going to be right with him as they come through. But Ian Logie will be used to this, a very competitive and solid racer in the British GT Championship back home. Is he going for an overtake in the middle of the field there before they come to the green flag? I thought that was a move there from Mohammed Al-Kazemi to try and get past Marcus Bamberg, but he did bail out of the overtake. I think he suddenly realised at the last minute, yeah, right, I can't overtake until I cross the start-finish line, can I? So he suddenly realised what he was doing and got himself back into position. So Mohammed Al-Kazemi is now going to get back on terms with Marcus Bamberg. Already looking threatening is Zayer Murad in front of Jacopo Mazza. So they're doing a fair job as they come through. But a very interesting battle for the competitors as they continue on their way. So Ian Logie, James Sweetenham and Johnny Kazoom as they go through. So the field is already starting to battle away up at the front end of the field. We've got an opportunity now to have a look back over the start, because that was actually a very unusual start for a Gulf Radical Cup race, a rolling start, but the pole position sitter, Alex Bunkertsoff, did not get a great start off the line. So, there's a car pulling off. That's Johnny Kazoom. Johnny Kazoom has pulled off. So Johnny Kazoom has pulled off at the hairpin onto the back straight, and that is game over for the 3rd place car. So Johnny Kazoom is off, and that means now that Abdul Nasser Al-Hamidi is trying to get past Alex Bunkertsoff to get through into 3rd position, and he's going to get alongside him. Bunkertsoff's going to break later around the outside and thwart the attack, and behind him, Mohammed Al-Kazemi on the inside of Marcus Bamberg. He gets through as Bamberg has disappeared. Where's Marcus Bamberg gone? Well, I told you it was exciting in Gulf Radical Cup. It's already kicking off. So very tricky. Let's go and have a look again at the start then at what happened, because we had all sorts of issues. So this is this is the restart. Now this might give us a little bit of an indication as to what happened to Marcus Bamberg, because Bamberg suddenly dropped away from the field.
You can see he doesn't get the good start there, and he's actually waving his arm there up as well.
He
may have an issue with that car on the restart there for Marcus Bamberg, which is really unfortunate, because you can see the gap is really building between the two of them.
Yeah, well spotted.
And he's Al-Hamidi as well, that's in front of him as well. Yeah,
Bamberg's definitely got issues as early as the restart. No wonder we're having a look at it again. But you could see that he definitely had flapping of his arms there, so there was definitely something developing. Johnny Kazoom, though, dropping out on this lap as well. So let's go back to live pictures, because that does give us a bit of an indication, because Bamberg has suddenly disappeared, as has Johnny Kazoom. So Kazoom and Bamberg both out of the race. We didn't really see Bamberg park up. We did see Johnny Kazoom pull off, and he's pulled right off the circuit, so we won't go to safety car. Bamberg has now crossed the line, I can tell you, but he was 14 seconds off the pace of Rui Wang alone. So Bamberg definitely having some kind of problem. I think he's trying to stay out to come in. Johnny Kazum, meanwhile, has drifted into the pits. So Johnny Kazum is out of this race. That's disappointing.
Yeah, and it was really unfortunate as well because Johnny Kazum always been sort of a fantastic show here in the Gulf Radical Cup. He's always one to watch out for because he's sort of, during the mid-pack, the beginning and the midpoint of the race, kind of floats around outside the top 3, and then he kind of kazooms out of nowhere and he's into the top 3, and he's always fun to watch in the during the races. But unfortunately, he's got a problem, and it was quite an odd one as well because he kind of came through turn 9 and he just peeled straight off. No one punted him off or anything like that. He just went off.
I've always liked the name Johnny Kazum. It definitely sounds like the arch nemesis to Michel Vaillant, doesn't it? A great comic book character for a racing driver. But yeah, I've got an issue on the timing screen come up. Overtakes under safety car conditions are being investigated. So that might explain why all of a sudden we had a couple of cars out of position when we went to safety car. Maybe a couple of drivers made an overtake, not realizing we were under safety car conditions. And then obviously the safety car was called. So there could be a couple of drivers who will end up with a nasty little penalty. It's already kicked off. We've already had 10 minutes of racing. We've had the championship leader fail to start. We've had the guy in 3rd position drop back and pit into the pits. We've had Marcus Bamberg in the Leighton Colours car flapping his arms down the main straight. There is Kazum, unfortunately being wheeled into the pits. And Ian Loggy, the man in 2nd place, is the only person who really hasn't hit any form of trouble at this point over the course of the race.
It looks like the battle for 3rd and left Alex Bukanstov alone because, well, he's dropped back now into the clutches of Mohamed Al-Kazemi here, and then it's a battle for 4th position at the moment. So not sure why Al-Hamidi's done that. Now, Al-Hamidi is actually one of the cars that's under investigation for the race start. Now, interestingly enough, it's him and the 777, and they, of course, we saw the 777 spun out and unfortunately on the exit of turn 1. Now, during the race start, actually at the beginning, the number 76 looked to be just trying to edge his rivals in front of him just to go a bit faster because it looked like he was getting caught up in that traffic going through. Well, we shouldn't say traffic actually because it's the start of, it's the formation, it's the start of the race, isn't it? It's the end of the formation lap, so he shouldn't be really overtaking. But it looked like he was trying to do the best he could, and I wonder if that's what the race officials have spotted there. As the note has come back up saying that overtakes for the safety car are still under investigation. Not quite sure who that's for because we haven't seen any numbers pop up. But we didn't really see any movement as well during that safety car period, as Alex Bukanstov is in hot pursuit of James Sweetnam, I must say, is having a fantastic run here in the Gulf Radical Cup.
It wouldn't surprise me if the investigation for overtaking under safety car may be for Johnny Kazum, actually, because he was running in about 4th or 5th before the safety car was called, and then he came across the line behind the safety car in 3rd place, didn't he? So maybe it was him that ended up causing the safety car. So let's have a look back at one of the incidents out on the course from earlier on. I think we're going to get to see a little bit more detail about what happened to Damian Chosek at the start. So let's have a bit of a look at it. Oh, this is Johnny Kazum going off the road. He just pulls right off, doesn't he?
It doesn't look like there's anything wrong with the car because we saw it come in cleanly as well, and there was no damage. It just seemed to be, he just drifted off through turn 9, and you could see he's in close proximity to Al-Hamidi there as well. But it didn't look like there was any shunting going off. He just went off by himself there.
I think he realised that there was an engine misfire of some kind, and that's why he's brought it into the pits and parked it. Now, down the straight, we have the battle for 4th place. Abdulnazir Al-Hamidi trying to shake off Mohamed Al-Kazemi as Ian Loggy continues to lead in front of Alex Bunkertsov, as they continue to battle away. The fastest lap of the race comes in from Alex Bunkertsov. He's just done a 2:03.611, which is the fastest lap of the race. I'm not quite sure why the time isn't coming up, but certainly Alex Bunkertsov has set the fastest lap of the race, and he is 3 seconds to the deficit. 4.2 seconds to the deficit of the race leader Ian Loggy, but certainly setting the pace. You can see the gap between Loggy and Sweetnam on the graphic. 3 seconds is the gap between them, and that is already a sizable gap between Loggy and Sweetnam. All Loggy essentially has to do is keep his car pointing in the right direction. You can see that Sweetnam is slowly falling into the clutches of Alex Bunkertsov. Meanwhile, here is the battle for 4th. This is Al-Hamidi, Al-Kazemi, and even Jacopo Mazza is not far away with Zaire Morad. And is that Amir Fazulin? It is. He started late, but Amir Fazulin has been able to get himself into 8th position. A big lunge on the inside from Mohamed Al-Kazemi, and is he through? Yes, he's managed to make that overtake. So a good move there from Mohamed Al-Kazemi as he gets through into 4th place.
So Al-Hamidi trying to get the switch back there, but just can't find a way through. Or can he? Because he comes on the inside again. Looking through turn 12 by the looks of it, and he's got the move stuck. He's taking it back, but a 47 now attacks again on the inside. He's having a great battle here for 4th position. Now, looking at James Sweetenham, we've yet to see him on the podium here in the Golf Radical Cup season so far. And I don't think he had a podium finish at all during the 2020-2021 season.
Oh, here we go again between these two. This is getting very, very close as Al-Kazemi and Al-Hamidi are still at each other's throats. Just about Abdulnazir Al-Hamidi, who is hanging on to it for the moment in 4th position. But I tell you what, Mohamed Al-Kazemi is taking no prisoners out there. He is gunning for every gap he can find. And for 2nd place, it's on now as well between James Sweetenham and Alex Bunkertsov. Bunkertsov is now going to try and make his bid to go through. He's trying to keep Sweetenham guessing which way he's going. He's sold him the dummy up the inside, but he's missed his braking point, and Sweetenham's going to get him straight back again, and Bunkertsov runs wide, holds it on the line. So Sweetenham is able to hold on to 2nd place. Bunkertsov is going to try and sweep back in for him. This is why the Golf Radical Cup is so exciting, because from one lap to the next, all it takes is one missed shift, one missed apex, and all of a sudden you've got someone else to battle with intensively. As those two go through in their battle for 2nd place, it's still pretty close behind between Al-Hamidi and Al-Kazemi. So still great racing wherever you look here.
And for James Sweetenham, it's been a fantastic drive so far. He's had a slew of DNFs. He's currently sitting in 9th overall, and he's looking for his first podium finishing position here, and he's keeping Alex Bukanchtov at bay as they work their way down towards turn 10 here. And Bukanchtov, is he going to try and fake her on the outside, or is he going to fake to the inside? No, he's going for the inside line this time round, but James Sweetenham shuts the door. Yes, he does. And he keeps about a half a car length separate the two of them. But here comes Alex again on the inside, trying to go around the outside for the next corner. Not going to work there. Alex is going to try again, but a fantastic drive here. And a massive improvement for James Sweetenham. We'll be on each other's bangers here. Oh, can we get through? Yes, we can.
They actually banged wheels. They actually traded paint as well as they came through on the exit of the left rear quarter. And they're still side by side. Sweetenham trying to shake off Alex Bunkertsov. Come on, man. Keep it on. He's really going for it now, Alex Bunkertsov. He's going to try and he's going to have to go right, because that's where Sweetenham is going to send him. Sweetenham pops his car beautifully in the middle of the road. You can't go left, you can't go right, and Bunkertsov actually has to back out of the throttle for a few car lengths.
And that could have all gone pear-shaped back then, but James Sweetenham, a fantastic drive here this weekend, looking for his first podium position here. Of course, keeping Alex at bay. Alex we've already seen once on the podium not too long ago, and he's, of course, sitting in... Where is he in the championship standing? He's 4th overall at the moment. And yes, of course, he had a 2nd place finish. No, sorry, he actually won a race outright.
Track limits for James Sweetenham. That doesn't surprise me somehow, because they were really pushing it in their battle for 2nd place. Let's go back and have a look at that earlier battle that we saw. So we've actually got a replay of some of the bits and pieces that were happening earlier on. So let's go and have a look at that incident before, because that's where a lot of this racing really kicked off. So let's have a look. This is where they got side by side between the two of them. Alex Bunkertsov's on the inside line here. You can see, look how much of a wobble there is between Sweetenham and Bunkertsov. They lean on each other here, then they separate. Bang! They actually connect with each other up to the braking zone. And they're on the brakes at this point. This could have gone absolutely horrifically wrong. And look, just the tiniest nudge. Whoops! Now that could have caused a puncture for Sweetenham.
And that's, of course, affecting the area now on the right-hand side of Alex's car as well, because he's lost the front, a little bit of the front right of the splitter there. But it hasn't made his car uncompetitive, because he's going to try again now down towards turn 10. And you can see the damage on the left-hand side of our pictures here, but the right-hand side of the car is around the outside we go. You can't do that, Alex. You're going to have to try and get the cutback, which he does right now. And he's going to try the outside line again. And James Sweetenham just cuts in behind him there. Fantastic battle here and a great move from Alex Bukanchtov there on that. That was turn 11 and 12. He did it through there. And it looks like he's now trying to drop James Sweetenham down and try and catch Ian Loggy. But 4.6 seconds and 8 minutes to go on the clock is not going to work out. He's going to have to put in some monstrous laps here. But that was a fantastic battle between these two drivers here.
So now we can breathe again for a little bit. That was so close between Alex Bukanchtov and James Sweetenham. So close. And now they both run wide as they try and get themselves back up to the line. This is all great news for Ian Loggy, because while these two have been scrapping away, he's basically said, yeah, no worry, boys. Fine, I'll just go ahead and win the race. No worries. I'll leave you two to it. You banter amongst yourselves, and I'm going to get in a little victory here to eat into the gap held by George King in the championship. Now, interesting, 10-second penalty will be added at the end of the race to Abdulnazir Al-Hamidi, who is running in 5th place for a race start infringement.
So I noticed at the beginning, at the start of the race there, he was sort of on the right of our feet here, he was sort of edging out to the right there. It looked like he was trying to overtake and kind of push the drivers in front of him to get going. It just looked like he was carrying far too much speed to the final corner, and of course the race officials have said, no, you can't do that. We're going to give you a 10-second penalty because it says start of the race, not the contact on the track between himself and the 777, presumably. But it did look kind of odd there for him. Now, I've also given a close eye on James Sweetenham's left rear because he's now losing a lot of time to Alex Wukanchdov, which is unfortunate because, again, great battle between the two of them. But, of course, with that contact, that right front to the left rear, and, of course, the aero has not been affected too badly on Alex's car, but that tyre, as Jake said before, could have a slow puncture if it was, because there was contact between the two of them. If that carbon fibre, because it is, of course, very sharp when it gets cut down, that could be causing James Sweetenham now to lose some time. Or he's just doing this to nurse his car because he knows what's happened, so he can't attack as he did before, because he's lost a lot of ground here. It looks like it's building to about almost a second now separating the two of them. It was 0.4 of a second across the line, but that looks a lot bigger as Amir Faisalin is getting the thick of things as well. He's trying to climb his way up the order. He, of course, started from the pit lane because of that engine problem that he had during qualifying. Great to see Amir Faisalin in. And Jake, I think you've got some news.
Well, he's having a great battle at the moment with Zaya Murad, and there is another penalty being added. Another penalty, and this is for Marcus Bamberg. 10-second penalty at the end of the race for overtaking under safety car conditions. So Marcus Bamberg, basically, I have a feeling he realised what he'd done. The reason he got out of position was because he figured out, oh, now I've done a bit of a naughty here. So he got out of the way, let everybody go, and has rejoined the circuit. So he's gone to the back of the field. But they've given him the penalty anyway, because obviously you cannot overtake under safety car conditions. So you can obviously give yourself a penalty if you wish, but you still have to accept the penalty if you deserve one.
Now, remember when we saw the replay of the restart, we saw Marcus's hand up in the air when it looked like he was signalling to go around, Jake. I think that's what he was trying to signal to the driver. But, of course, driver behind us go, hey, it's not my mistake, it's your mistake, we're going green now, I'm not going to overtake and get myself a penalty.
Exactly.
That's your issue, isn't it?
Exactly. You put yourself into hot water, you've got to find a way out of it. Now, warning flags for two cars. Ian Loggy, the race leader, and Amir Faisalin for track limits, and they've incurred it at turns 9 and 12, the most obvious points on the circuit where track limits are going to cause a bit of an issue, because you essentially drift off the line and you run across the curb, and that's where you can just slightly edge over the white line. It's very easy to do on those particular corners, but we can see this fantastic little scrap going on between Faisalin, Murad and Matza, and they are still going at it all together. But these guys are technically battling for 5th place now. They're not battling for 6th, because the man in front of them, Abdulnazir Al-Hamidi, he has a 10-second penalty, which will be added on to the end of the race. So these guys are battling over 5th. What a race for Amir Faisalin, considering he didn't know if he was going to start the race at one point. And that's Jacopo Mazza. Big launch up the inside of Zaya Murad, but he gets it a little bit wrong on the exit. That's the thing. He got so hungry there. His eyes were wider than his stomach. He thought, excellent, a gap, launch into it. But he braked just a couple of meters too late, and that was perfectly okay for Zaya Murad. He didn't panic. He went, right, he's going to overshoot. I'm going to have him straight back.
Amir Faisalin has rapidly improved. Of course, he's been in the series for quite some time here in the Gulf Radical Cup. Spent some time doing radical racing in Europe, most notably the UK as well. He's also dabbled at the NGK UAE Pro Car Championship. We saw him out last week as we see a move on the inside for Matza. Again on Murad, but loose. He's too late on the brakes, wasn't he, Jake?
Yeah, the back end was desperate to overtake the front end. He was so careful there to save it, because that is an easy corner to spin off on. We've seen several drivers spin off there in practice in various categories over the last 2 weeks. So that is such an easy place to wash out. The back end of the car decided, I want to be the leader, and he was so fortunate to be able to catch that. But now he's already straight back on the tail of Zaya Murad, so he can have a look at that going into turn 1. It's going to come from a long way back, but he seems to be more confident on the brakes. Zaya Murad is going to squeeze him at the apex, but Mazza is still going to be a little alongside. He's just reminding him, no, you came from far too far back. That's never going to work, mate.
This looks like the battle was second all over again with two different drivers, and talking about that battle, James Sweetnam is tumbling down now. He's almost 3 seconds back from the 63, unfortunately, so he might be nursing that car home after that fierce battle. The good news is that he's still 10 seconds up the road from the number 47 of Al-Kazmi, as Mohammed Al-Kazmi circulating in 4th position at the moment, just outside the top 3 by quite some margin as well. And you see that great battle behind us here as well in the shot. And of course is Zahim Murad, who is keeping Matza at bay with Amir Faislin just in front. But of course this battle isn't actually for 7th position. This is actually for a position higher up, because of course Al-Hamidi has that penalty, who is just in front of this battle here, in front of Amir Faislin. But the gap up front is 5 seconds now. Ian Loggy putting a massive gap between himself and Alex Bukanchdov, with James Sweetnam unfortunately losing time to the number 63. And they of course are your top 3 here in the Golf Radical Cup. Of course James Sweetnam looking for his first podium finish here throughout the championship. We've yet to see him as an opponent before, and of course luck hasn't really gone his way at all during the Golf Radical Cup 2021-2022 season for James Sweetnam, but it looks like it's going to be the race here this weekend. He's going to get his first taste of the podium.
Zahim Murad just got very loose on the way through there. I thought he was actually going to spin the card. Jacopo Mazza will be loving that, going, right, he's vulnerable. Here we go, final turn, I can have him. And Zahim Murad actually has to protect. Ian Loggy, the race leader, has gone into the final lap here of this first sprint race of the weekend. And how about this? These two are still at it. Murad and Mazza are going to give this an absolute belter in the final lap. Mazza's going to get his run. There isn't really a lot that Zahim Murad can do now that he's given him the space. He has to kind of let him go and hope that he's going to run loose on the exit, but he doesn't. Jacopo Mazza has nailed this one. It's a little bit sloppy in terms of defence there from Zahim Murad, but what he has been able to do is get straight back on the power. He might be able to get back on terms with him later on in the lap.
So incredibly up front, Alex Bukanchdov has managed to claw back a full second on that penultimate lap of the race here. Now, I wonder if Ian Loggy is also nursing the car home as well, because, of course, he did extend his gap by quite some margin, and now Alex Bukanchdov is starting to catch him up. If only there was more time left on the clock, he might be able to challenge for that race victory. But on that previous lap, Alex Bukanchdov had a 2:04.568 compared to Ian Loggy's 2:05.573. As he said, 40th of a second back at the moment, but Alex Bukanchdov is going faster here, but not enough time here on the clock, unfortunately, for the Russian. It looks like Ian Loggy will get his first win of the 2021-2022 season. Of course, George King not racing or not partaking in race 1, at least here this weekend. Unfortunately, engine problems during qualifying has put him out of the first race, but we have been told that he will be rejoining for race 2.
Well, what a moment this is for Ian Loggy. He's been very patient over the course of this season. It hasn't really been his way for many races this year, but when all of the jigsaw pieces fit together and all of the stars align, he can put on an excellent show. Ian Loggy takes the win in sprint race 1 here at Dubai Autodrome. Brilliant drive, absolutely flawless, just reining it in at the end. He didn't need to push too hard. Alex Bukanchdov is able to come through in 2nd place. James Sweetnam in a solid 3rd. Excellent racing. We didn't have many cars, but I tell you what, don't you dare suggest that Golf Radical Cup is a snooze fest, because it's anything but. Absolutely brilliant. Now, interestingly, we have a post-flag penalty. Alex Bukanchdov has been given a 10-second penalty for repeatedly exceeding track limits after he was initially given the warning flag.
Now, I was going to say he caught it by another second, and I think we found out where he's got that second
Absolutely.
from.
So that means that Bukanchdov is actually going to drop to 3rd at the finish rather than in 2nd. So James Sweetnam is going to be promoted to P2. So Loggy will be the winner, Sweetnam 2nd. Bukanchdov will drop to 3rd. He'll still collect silverware, but that's just going to be one final... That's going to be one final blow to the ribs, isn't it? Having been in pole position originally, his main rival for the race not starting, he would have thought, great, this is my chance here, and it's all fallen apart at the seams. So Loggy will take the win. Sweetnam will be classified as 2nd in the end, as Alex Bukanchdov will take a penalty. But there is the result. Mohammed Al-Kazemi in 4th, Abdulnazir Al-Hamidi in front of Amir Faisulin for 5th and 6th, although Al-Hamidi will also take a penalty. Jacopo Mazza did in the end beat Zahim Murad from Marcus Bamberg, Ray Yu Wang, and unfortunately a retirement in the end for Johnny Kazoum, as well as for Ian Robertson, Damien Chosek on the first lap. George King did not start. Julien Monet did not participate. Fascinating stuff. Absolutely incredible racing from the Golf Radical Cup. We will hopefully be able to stick around for the podium here at Dubai Autodrome. It would be great to see these guys get the job done. And there is a penalty. I don't know if that's a reminder or if that's an additional penalty. I think it's an additional penalty for the car 76 for Abdulaziz Al Hamidi for a race start infringement. So just like Marcus Bamberg, another penalty being handed out at the end there for a race start infringement. So for those who are passionately in love with the Golf Radicals, as I am, you will definitely have to refer back to the website for the official result, because there's going to be a few more additional changes, I think. But wow, that was amazing racing. Really, really good to see. And congratulations to Ian Loggy for taking his first win of the campaign. And it's been a long time coming, but what a great result and a fabulous job. So the cars are coming into Parc Ferme, and they are all going to park up in the same position. But what a fabulous, fabulous battle it has been for Ian Loggy. He will take the victory. Chris Milbourne has departed so that he can conduct the podium ceremony. And as you can see, it's not going to be too long before the qualifying session for the F4 UAE Championship. So they will come out very soon indeed. However, it's been very exciting stuff in race one of the Golf Radical Cup. Barry Hope is absolutely correct. Great race. It really was. And excellent stuff. And that is exactly the kind of entertainment that these guys and girls can give you. But everybody in the paddock and everybody in the pit lane can be very proud of the show they put on. So, picking through the highlights of this one, it's going to be a long one because there were so many different things that happened in this race. Looks as though there are start line infringements to take into account from Marcus Bamberg and, of course, also from Abdulaziz Al Hamidi amongst the penalties. Unfortunately, there was a spin on the opening lap for Damien Chosek, who ended up beached on the curbs. Ian Roberts was out of the race as well. That brought out the safety car. So Ian Loggy running in front of James Sweetnam and Johnny Kazoom at that point. There were some problems in terms of overtaking under safety car as a result of all of that. On the restart, Marcus Bamberg was desperately trying to wave his opponents through. Johnny Kazoom then pulled off the road with all kinds of problems, and then eventually he would later get a penalty for an overtake under safety car. Alex Bukansov had all sorts of battles early on. Firstly, with Abdulaziz Al Hamidi, who has subsequently, by the way, dropped to 8th place in the results thanks to his penalty being applied. And then there was this amazing run from Mohamed Al Kazemi on the inside of Abdulaziz Al Hamidi. Great battling between these two. They started the ball rolling, but there was no more aggressive battle out on the circuit than we saw between James Sweetnam and Alex Bukansov, which eventually fell to Sweetnam. Here is the start of that battle. They're battling away tooth and nail for each little part of the apex. And then comes that wheel banging session in the middle of the next part of the lap. Here it is, ready. They lean on each other, and then bang! Just a little nudge, and then as the next corner apex comes, blip, tiniest little bit of a rub between splitter and wheel. How on earth James Sweetnam didn't get a puncture, I'll never know. But these two really did put on an excellent display, swapping positions lap after lap. Eventually Sweetnam succumbed to Bukansov, but a penalty did go against him in the end, so Sweetnam inherits second place. Great racing between Amir Fizulin and Zaire Morad as well. Jacopo Mazza finally brought himself into the battle, and we had one final little showdown between Jacopo Mazza and Zaire Morad. That little mistake from Mazza only made him saw the red mist, and he started to get back on terms with the Team Pakistan racer, side by side through turn one. Morad wouldn't play ball, and then midway round the lap, Jacopo Mazza decided enough is enough. He was going to hassle and make his bid into turn one, and that's where the ultimate overtake came. And it was a fabulous bit of patience and discipline rewarded for Jacopo Mazza. But up in front, it would be a victory for Ian Loggy in fantastic style. The absence of George King really paying dividends for him. Ian Loggy will be hoping that George King sits on the sideline a few more races this season. Otherwise, it's going to be business as usual for Sprint Race 2. So, brilliant battles at the moment. You can see that the F4 cars are heading out on circuit for their qualifying session. We will now turn our attention to them. There'll be more great battles.